Here is an unpopular opinion, but hear me out for a second. Be kind to yourself and listen to your body is something that people would say to me when I was really ill a lot. And while be kind to yourself, that's something I can totally get behind. But listen to your body is something that I got really frustrated over, and here is why. A lot of the time, I didn't have a problem with fitness as such. And as you'll know from previous videos, I suffered from PEM a lot, which is post-exertional malaise. So this is the delayed onset of fatigue and symptoms after exertion. And this meant that there was times that I would feel okay, so I might go for a walk and I wouldn't feel too bad on the walk, but the day after or the day after that, I would have a crash. So this made it really difficult to listen to my body. It wasn't so much that I lacked the fitness, but rather the ability to recover. And my body was also highly unpredictable at times. So it was pretty much impossible to know how much I could do on a day. And some days even just having conversations would cause a crash. So I had to keep it in mind that I couldn't always trust how my body was feeling. I couldn't just listen to my body. And at the other end of the spectrum, way later in the recovery, in more recent times, I have had another reason to not always listen to my body. Sometimes it is necessary to push out of your comfort zone to progress. I know that is a really taboo word, to push out of your comfort zone when you're dealing with chronic fatigue syndrome. I basically had to make myself feel worse at times to feel better in the long run. This is something that you need to be very careful about, so please do not take my advice on this. This is just something that has worked in my recovery. You cannot push yourself to recovery with chronic fatigue syndrome, but in my experience, you also cannot rest yourself to recovery. So it's about finding that fine line balance. So in these later stages, pretty much up to recent times, you know, there's been times where I've sort of been feeling a bit meh. And, you know, if I was listening to my body, I'd be like, no, I'm not going to do anything. But, you know, I do something and I do feel better for it. And I feel better for it in the long run. So, you know, these are times that I can afford to push a little bit. And I know that word push is, oh dear, it's not a good word to put with chronic fatigue syndrome, so I'm a bit worried about making this video, but I just am explaining how it's been for me. And in recent times I have had to push a little bit and not always listen to my body. And obviously, like, you know, you have to have limits in place. And, you know, if I do feel like, oh, I really don't feel good, or my body is screaming at me to stop, then I will listen to that. But if it's a case of, how do I explain this? So, like, you know, I've gone through a lot of trauma with this illness, and I have picked up a lot of fear in doing things. And, you know, that contributes to me sometimes thinking, oh, I don't want to go out and do this because I'm scared. I'm scared that I'm going to crash and this whole cycle's going to repeat again. And yeah, I don't really know where I'm going with that, but you kind of have to pay attention to both your brain and your body. Don't trust your body too much, because sometimes it can play tricks with you. It can make you think that it's okay to do a lot when it's not, and then it can also you know, make you feel like, oh, you can't do certain activity. While I say listen to your mind as well, also know that, you know, you can't also trust that either. If you're like me, you might have developed a lot of fear, so, you know, your mind can be saying, don't do this, even though your body's grand. So yeah, that's really, really unhelpful. But that's just what I wanted to say, is just beware. Don't 100% always listen to your body. That's how I feel anyway. And, you know, sometimes a good way around this, like I found, is doing my pacing chart. So, you know, I'll chart on a little graph like how I'm feeling and then the activity I've done, and then I can just look at that and think, okay, well, I did that activity, I felt okay the next day, I'll do slightly more, increasing it by very incrementally. And you know, that sort of helps me think, you know, look outside of my mind and body sometimes and have a bit of a plan. But yeah, so that's pretty much all for this video. I don't know if that was helpful in the slightest. Just wanted to explain my experience with that. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.